The first thing that we are going to examine today is what is food insecurity? The second is what does food insecurity look like in America today? To answer our first question, food insecurity is defined by the USDA as the measure of lack of access at times to enough food for an active, healthy life for all members of a household, and limited or uncertain availability of adequate foods. In simpler terms, food insecurity is experienced when family members are struggling to feed all members of a household. As you can see in this pyramid, there is a range of food security. The largest segment is high food security, where households have no problem or anxiety regarding feeding themselves. The next is marginal food security. In this segment, households occasionally have anxiety or stress about access to adequate food, but the quality, variety, and quantity of food has not been substantially reduced. The next level on the pyramid is low food security. In this level, households have reduced quality, variety, and desirability of their diets, but the food is enough to sustain the family from going hungry. The lowest level of food security is low food insecurity. This is a segment where food intake by one or more family members is drastically reduced because the household lacks the money or resources for food. We know that prior to the pandemic, the food insecurity rate was 11%. As of April 2020, this number had risen to 17%. Unfortunately, this is a difference of 17 million people who are now experiencing food insecurity. Historically, during the Great Recession, 14% of people were experiencing food insecurity. So clearly, with our number at 17%, this is a real problem right now. So, what's causing this massive increase in FI rates in our country? This has a lot to do with the unemployment rate that has risen a lot during the coronavirus pandemic. Millions of people have lost their jobs during this time and are really struggling to make ends meet. This has resulted in a large increase in the food insecurity rate.
One major problem with COVID has been how it affects food banks and services all across the world. And like some statistics are 50 million more people are experiencing hunger now due to COVID, which in the grand scheme of things is 60% more than before. So that's an insane amount of numbers, and that's 8 billion meals that are needed to meet the new surging numbers, which is a crazy demand. Feeding America Foundation has helped raise 240 million through social.
Other organizations that share Feeding America's drive to solve the problem of food insecurity are SNAP, WIC, Meals on Wheels, and Why Hunger. The next thing we're going to explore is how different groups are affected by food insecurity. The first factor that we are going to look at is race. Statistics show that African American adults and Hispanic American adults are 2 times more likely than white adults to experience food insecurity. The next group that is affected by food insecurity is the elderly population. We know that the elderly population is extremely vulnerable to the effects of coronavirus, but they are not only vulnerable to the virus itself, they are also more prone to malnutrition during this time, as well as other problems such as depression. Another reason for these higher rates has to do with children being out of school. Students who relied on free or reduced price meals at school have been left hungry since closures. While some families have been contacted by their schools and supported during the closures, 2 of 5 families who once received free lunch at school have not been given support during the pandemic. In April of 2020, a survey was taken that found that 1 in 5 households with children were food insecure, and 17.7% of mothers with children under the age of 12 reported a struggle to feed their children.